until early 46 in the Army, working for Uncle. Just at this time, 50 years ago, I was on Cebu with the 77th Infantry Division. This division had just completed its tour of duty on Aishima, a dirty little spot out there in the Pacific that will be remembered only for the fact that Ernie Pyle raised his head and looked around. And then to Okinawa, surrounded by infantry divisions on both sides, and another dirty job. So our division, or what was left of it, was in Philippine Islands, and we were being re-equipped for the attack on mainland Japan. Political statement. Thank you, Harry Truman. You probably saved my life. I'm not one for revisionists in history in 1990 talking about what we should have done or should not have done in the 40s. I had a crazy experience because when the war ended so quickly, all of a sudden I found myself an artillery officer. I never tried to get into any of this business in the Army. I had been in the National Guard in high school as a way to make some money. I'd been to camp. I knew a little bit about how guns shoot. So I went into the artillery and went to OCS in Fort Sill and learned all that business. But all of a sudden, I found myself in military government on the island of Hokkaido, where the Japanese really hadn't seen many white people for years and years. I found myself with a Jeep and two enlisted men, a 45 on my hip, two carbines in their hands, in a Jeep, heading for a town called Yubari, which is in the center of the coal mining district of Japan. There, my assignment was to keep peace with some 175,000 Korean and Chinese slave labor, and I was to be in charge of the repatriation of these people. I was 26, and I was a little nervous, but at 26 you can handle most things. Was I 25 on one of those? I would sit around a table, and we were speaking North China, Central China, South China, and interpreters, Koreans, Japanese, English. And I would look at a map and say, in 2 weeks from tomorrow, we will evacuate camp number 16. We want to train here. We want room for 240 men. We want blankets, food, clothing, cigarettes. We want the train to go down to Hakodate. We want a ship there to move these people back to Nanking. And it worked. That's where my acting ability came in, because I was pretty shaken. I came out of the Army, came back. Now I've got a wife and one child, and we moved to Chicago. It drew me back. We found a little apartment way out on 92nd Place in the heart of the Polish steelworking district. And we did the normal thing of renting a little upstairs apartment with the good Polish family named Stelk down beneath us. Again, my wife was pregnant almost immediately, and those good Polish smells came up the stairs. My poor wife. And I went back walking the streets, and I came within an inch of going back in the Army. When you have spent around 5 years in the womb of the Army, told when to stand up and when to sit down, and when you've got a good solid career going, you're badly tempted. I would have ended up in Korea, and that would have been pretty rugged. I was offered a majority from my old commanding officer. He and my old division in Japan ended up in Korea and were practically annihilated on the march back from the Yalu River. One day, I was making the rounds. I was at CFL. I talked to the program director. Does anybody know his name? In 1946.
Marty Hogan.
Bob Platt.
Oh, Bob.
Bob Platt. Marty came on later as talent, when he came out of City Hall. By the grace of somebody, Marty Hogan was well connected. So Bob Platt and I talked, and I went home, and about a day later I got a call, and he said, I've got a sports announcer named Jimmy Dudley. Do any of you remember Jimmy Dudley? Jimmy Dudley is going over to, I think it was Cleveland, to be a sports announcer. And would I like to come in and do at least a few days, maybe a week, and they'd look me over. On Wednesday, they offered me a job. Nothing in my whole life has been as important as that. I was in the town where I wanted to be. I was in the business where I wanted to work. And I remember walking up Michigan Avenue. We came out of the train station right beneath this building. We lived on the south side, so I take the IC up here. I walked up Michigan Avenue. I never touched the ground. I had a job at $62.50 a week. And it was all the